Another sector that seems to be garnering a lot of attention lately. On this part of the program, now we're going to be unlocking the business opportunities in Nigeria's sports sector. At least that's what I hope Toyosi Oyetoji is going to be doing with me for the next couple of minutes. Thank you so much, Toyosi, for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you so much for having me as well. Thank you.
Well, we know that sports is a multi-billion-dollar global industry.
Yeah.
An industry that it seems Nigeria is sadly missing out on. Do we really have a potentially viable sports industry in the country?
Well, before we talk about Nigeria, let's look at what happens at the global stage and look at what's obtainable elsewhere, and we can actually make a comparison if we're actually doing well or not. But before I go to that, I want to talk about the era that sport industry has come over the years. Yeah, we had what we call the participation revolution, which is supposed to be well, I just want to participate in sport. That's all I want to do. You're not thinking about the business side, and it happened in the 1980s. After the 1980s, we went into the 1990s, which is supposed to be the Michael Jordan's brand experience era, when they talked about brand actually want to put their money into sport to actually leverage on the followership of sport to get brand loyalty, people to pay more attention to their brand. So Nigeria refused to leave that era of sport participation, and we refused to move to the era of sport business. So basically, Nigeria, we're not doing business in sport. We just run a sport. Now we talk about the multi-billion business. I want to tell you that last 2011-2012 season in England, the EPL that all of us are crazy about, the EPL paid 1.3 billion pounds as tax to the government that year. That was 2011-2012 season, not this season. This season review has not been out yet, so we're still waiting for this year's review. But then, that's how much they paid as tax. 1.3 billion pounds. That's a fact from the auditors. And globally, the European League generally made 19.1 billion euro as revenue, and EPL made 29 billion euro that last season. I'm talking about football alone. But the global sport made $620 billion in dollars. So you see that when you hear these numbers and figures, you wonder what's happening in Nigeria when we don't have money to pay stars, we don't have money to pay our coaches, we don't have money to pay players.
Okay, so now looking at the Nigerian sporting industry, how much have they paid in terms of taxes, and how much has it contributed to GDP?
Then you should ask me that: do we actually have accounting system? Do we actually report what happened in our sports system? Do you really have history or disclose that we have here and there? Can you give us the financials? Let's look at what you guys did last year, or after the World Cup experience. Let them come out and tell, okay, this is how much we spent, this is how much revenue we made. And in business, you must have the two sides of balance sheet, which is the credit and the debit side, which call the profit and the loss side of the balance sheet. So if you always, what you hear every time is Nigeria spending so much. You're not talking about how much Nigeria is making. So are you in business? No. A small guy that runs a recharge card business out there, who at the end of the day do that simple accounting to say, okay, this morning when I came out, I had this number of cards, and at the close of the day, I made this so much. So you can compare, okay, if I might making profit or not. But in sports,
so is it the companies that are not actually declaring these results, or is it is it the football clubs now that are not declaring these results, or is it that the agencies are not checking them?
Now, all of us know that when government is in charge of something, you don't really have accountability most times. Who is responsible? Who claims ownership? You don't have that responsibility that, okay, we need to do this. But then if it's to be private owned, you have people that the shareholders, stakeholders asking you questions. How do you spend our money?
When you say the private owned, as in clubs?
Clubs are owned by private individuals. Like, for instance, if I own a club, for instance, definitely at the end of the day, I'm not the one that will be the coach, I'm not the one that will be the manager, so I have people responsible for all that. And at the end of the day, I ask them to give me stock. What happened in the last 1 year? What happened? What's revenue? But most times, Nigeria, most times you hear transfer players going abroad and others. You don't really have figures, as in, okay, this money came, but to which account? Who is responsible? So basically, I don't want us to talk so much about the problem. There are problems, but we look at the opportunities and the business opportunities had there for Nigeria. We have the ready market. Why do I say this? Nigerians are crazy about football. You know that. Manchester United, Arsenal fans and all that. That means the market is there. Right. But you just need people that are more business oriented to take responsibility and ownership. Don't blame government for this. I'm going to blame government for anything. Government has done so much providing infrastructures. In Ogun State alone, you have 5 stadia. In Lagos, you have more than 5. So you want government also to come and to now sponsor a club to run in Lagos or to also give you run tournament for you? No.
So why is it that our domestic league is not so attractive?
Well, the problem that it all started with the introduction of satellite TV in Nigeria actually killed our sport. Before now, if the show to us, the only option we had then was to go to the stadium and watch the matches. But now you can actually see on your TV and watch better league. Then you have a better option. You want to sit down and be watching, playing on the dust or something not up to standard. When you have a comparison, you're not wanting to compare with that. Rather, you have something to compare. Well, see the quality of match, see the ambulance on the stadium, see the quality of game, see the player. I hear so much. So, do you think I, as a person, will want to go to the stadium and watch football? No. And when you don't have the follower, I mean, the followership is not there. The people that want to invest money will not put their money in there. Why am I putting my money in sport? I want return on my investment. I don't just want to put money in sport as a charity organization. No. I must get something back as benefits.
So what can make them more lucrative? What can make these clubs more lucrative enough to have investors coming from outside? Because we know that in Europe and North America alone, wealthy individuals readily and regularly invest in sports franchise. So how can, because we also have, people like that here in Nigeria. So how can such ones be readily encouraged to invest in sports, in clubs?
I don't know if you can flash back to 1980s, early 90s when we have the Abiola Babes, we have the NYM of this age and all that. We've had people in Nigeria, also individuals that have invested so much in sport, but the system actually, automatically kill their passion, and these people actually pulled out of football sponsorship and focus more on their business, which is their primary thing. So I don't think football should be run by an individual. It's supposed to be a group of people. Most time you see the clubs in Europe, they belong to a community. You talked about Man City, Manchester City, you talked about Stoke City, the community. You talked about in the Bundesliga, you see their club belongs to a community. So those people take ownership. Now, I will invest my emotion, my money, because I have passion. I'm emotionally attached to this club. So the club will do well because I don't want to see my heritage go down. But in Nigeria, it's the government, and government doesn't care. Government is, this
let's not say government doesn't care. Let's say that government does what it's supposed to do, providing
this infrastructure, like I said earlier, they provide it, but they should not be the one that will run the club for us. You and the stakeholders should be responsible, take ownership of these properties, as in, we have the structures, we have the Rangers of this world. It's been around for over 50 years. We have the 3SC around for 50 years. We have the Canopilas. I read the story of Canopila recently. It used to be one name, it transformed to another name. So these are heritage,
But who is actually making, or who is actually marketing these clubs as a brand? Because if I know that this brand isn't worth anything, I probably wouldn't put my money in as well. But somebody has to be marketing this brand to show us the potentials of if it's going to be a money spinner or not.
No. Well, like I said, nobody's marketing the clubs. And I won't market the clubs because they're not marketable.
Why aren't they marketable?
You don't have the followership. See, for you as a brand, a multinational brand, you want to put 1 billion naira on a football match, you need to get something back. That means, okay, why is EPL doing so well? Because it's being viewed all over the world. Live audience, you see the stadium full capacity. On TV, people, I don't know, most times...
Of course, so that means they're buying tickets, they're buying from the concession stands, they're buying food, they're buying drinks, and so, of course, revenue is coming in and revenue is going to the government and to the people.
But here in Nigeria, you go to that stadium, you see empty stadium, people are not watching football. People are not interested. They rather sit down in their house and watch EPL and watch Bundesliga. So why do I want to go and market such brand? I say, come and put your money on this club. If they at all they come, they will underprice you.
But apart from football, which other sport is actually another interesting money making venture
in the world or in Nigeria?
Here in Nigeria.
Well, you don't want to try basketball. But basketball really people are not. It's not our culture. See, football in Nigeria started far back in 1906. So it's part of us. Nigeria came together. 1914 or whatever. So football in Nigeria, in Calabar, in Lagos started long before. So it's part of us. It's our life. It's our culture. That's why ordinarily that's the only thing that brings us together as people. It's football. That's why it's across religion, tribes or whatever. So that's why it's football that all of us talked about, and we should the
earlier we take advantage of it
and realize that this is our national sport, so to say.
Okay,
like
let's talk
England,
about
their own is cricket. In England, the football, and it's contributes so much to their economy, to their GDP. Well, in Nigeria, I'm not saying government is not doing it. Government has done greatly. I'm not disappointed. They've done well, but I need the stakeholders to take ownership and say, okay, this is our own thing. We should invest more into it and put it. For instance, I left banking for sport. I did PE. I studied sport in the university, and after I joined the bank, I said, oh boy, what are you doing here? 4 years ago, I left. Let me go back to sport. And somehow, not very easy, because coming to an unstructured industry where you don't have a business in Nigeria when it comes to sport, no business at all. So you just have to be creative. You just have to come up with an idea.
No, we're talking about business. So let's talk about the merchandising aspect of it. Is there any profit from it? But what exactly is merchandising?
Merchandising is where, okay, in England, for instance, which I'll take as a case study, about 27% of their revenue comes from merchandising. 27%, that's fact.
That's revenue to the government?
No, to the clubs.
To the clubs.
Definitely, right. About 50% comes from TV rights. Then 23% of that comes from the match day revenue, like ticketing and all that. So merchandising is big. 27% of your revenue comes from merchandising, jerseys, souvenirs. If you go to the US, you see the bubble head on your car. Those are merchandising. But whose head do you want to put on your car? Tell me the brand. Those that we used to have the JJ Okocha, we used to have the can. We don't even have the brands again. The sport marketing, the sport business started with Michael Jordan in 1990. When he had two sponsors, one sponsored on the pitch and one sponsored outside the pitch. He would wear Canvas on the pitch, he would wear Nike or Adidas outside. And he put in so much money to wear this thing. Before, we used to have personality like JJ Okocha as a sport ambassador for this multinational Nigeria. Today is the musicians, those guys, because we don't pay attention. So
how can we actually pay attention to it now and change the mindset so that it becomes a revenue earner for national associations and also for the clubs?
Yeah, you just need to introduce just one simple thing: the business orientation. Just change our thinking that it's no longer business as usual, which is supposed to be participation. We should look at it as a business which has both credit side and also has the debit side, which has the profit side of the balance sheet and also have the profit and loss side of balance sheet. So when we start looking at that, not government giving us money to go and run this thing, we want to come back and say, government, we made so amount of this, or whoever is involved in it, we are making money as well. And we also go back and generate interest. I did something with 3S Shooting Star with Badon sometimes, like 2 seasons ago. When you go to the stadium, you don't see anybody. I said, what do? We leverage on social media. We started sending text to guys. BB, the match tomorrow will be fantastic. Start promoting it, leveraging on social media. Invite people, and the match you play, the last match, you have like 75% full capacity in the stadium.
Of course, that's more money in the pocket of the club.
So we should pay attention and leverage on what I see it as business today. It's easier because you have the social media, you have to actually attract people. In South Africa, you have the stadium at least 85 to 90% full, and they have TV. They brought the satellite to us. They have the TV. They will still watch the EPL, but because somebody somewhere is doing something, which is the business side of it, paying attention to details, introducing the business model in clubs, in organizations, and say that we want to make profit. Once you have the followers, then you can earn merchandise. If you don't have the follower, who are you going to sell to? You don't have the people following you. So what are you going to sell to?
Well, thank you so much, Toyosi, for sharing your thoughts with us on the program today. Well, I've been speaking with sports consultant Toyosi Oyetunji, and we've been looking at unlocking the business opportunities in Nigeria's